Hello everyone. Welcome to this video and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Brenda. I'm an artist and a certified Zentangle teacher, and today is Mindful Monday. On Mindful Mondays, I am going to be your guide on a journey through the 8 steps of the magical Zentangle method of drawing. I believe it's magical because it has truly made a very positive impact in my life. Before we begin, though, I do want to talk about the tools that we are going to use today. So I'm drawing on a 3.5-inch square Zentangle tile. This is made of a really pretty, luscious, if you will, watercolor paper. And I'm going to be using a Micron PN pen. It has a fatter nib. The PN stands for plastic nib, which makes it sturdier. And for me, I have a heavy hand. I appreciate that this one is unbreakable, so to speak. We're also going to use a Zentangle pencil, or any pencil will do, and a tortillon to blend out our graphite. And as always, our little Zentangle mascot Bijou is here to help us remember to enjoy our time today as we are drawing our tile. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this space, and we are going to just kind of sit back and relax, get settled into your chair. We're moving to step 1 of the Zentangle method. Step 1 is gratitude and appreciation. Now in this step, I am going to talk you through a short breathing exercise, and this is just going to help you to get settled into this moment and prepare ourselves to begin to draw. So let's just take a couple of deep breaths to begin. Breathing in deeply and breathing out completely. And again, deep breath in and exhale slowly. One final big breath in and out. And just relax as you exhale. Now just let your breath fall into a natural breathing rhythm and pay attention to it. Breathing in and out. Don't direct it, just follow it and focus on your breath. Now thoughts will pop in, and that's okay. Just acknowledge them, let them go, and refocus back on your breath. We're getting settled into our space, and we are just relaxing. Now take a moment and think about something that you are grateful for. It doesn't have to be a big, grand thing. It could be something simple, like a delicious cup of coffee in the morning. And pay attention to how this feels. How does gratitude feel? Now, as we draw today, if you find yourself in need of a little break, maybe your lines aren't going where you want them to, just stop yourself. Take a big breath in and out. And remember this feeling of gratitude. And then when you're ready, you can pick your pen back up and begin again. Okay, let's end with one final big breath in and out. And that is all there is to step one. For step two, we're going to use our pencil. Step two are corner dots. So we are simply going to put a dot in each of the four corners. Step three is a border. And we create the border by connecting the dots. And there's our border. Now step four is a string. And this string is going to come down from the top, make a little loop, and go back. And there is our string. So we're done with our pencil. We're moving on to step five now, which is the patterns. And we are going to begin with just some orbs or tipple. And I want to draw these tipple on this line that comes out from the center on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, let me just go ahead and start in the center. Now I'm drawing these above the line, mostly because I just really don't want a pencil line in the center of my circle or my orb. But you can draw it over top of the line if you want, it's fine. And I'm stopping at my border for this one. Now we're going to go ahead and do this side. Okay, so there is our beginning. There's the orbs that we started with. And now I'm going to go ahead and aura around all of these orbs. I'm remembering to turn my tile as I go. That makes my auras a little more even. Okay, now I'll come down here and do this side. Okay, so there is our first tangle, our first pattern, and it's basically just orbs. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on top of this oval teardrop kind of shape we have here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now I am going to aura that on the inside. Okay. Now the next pattern we're going to draw is talk. And this is a favorite of mine. It's basically a simple scallop. And that's what we're going to put around the outside here of this teardrop shape. And again, I'm turning my tile as I go around. That not only helps keep my wrist relaxed, but it also helps to keep my lines more consistent. And that will help my pattern look a little better. But there are no mistakes, so don't stress out about this. Okay, so there is my talk. Now, I am going to add a little black. It's not really a circle, it's just kind of a shape mirroring the shape of our scallop, but it's small and it's right next to the line. This is just adding some contrast and a little bit of dark to our pattern. Okay, and finally, I'm going to go ahead and aura the outside of this pattern talk. Okay, so we are finished with talk. Now, the final pattern that we're going to do is munchin'. And munchin', I love munchin'. It's a lot of fun and you get a lot of texture with this pattern. This is a pattern where we begin with just a bunch of dots. And you can put them wherever you like. There's no specific place that you need to put these. They don't have to be uniform. Some are farther away than others. And we're going to use these dots to create some triangles for our pattern. Okay, so I'm just going to start connecting these dots into triangles. And now I've got one. I am going to draw lines inside. So I'm going to start at the tip, any tip, and then I'm going to draw a line down the center, and then I'm going to draw one on each side, and they radiate down from the point at the top. Now I am going to draw another triangle. And this time the top is going to be here because I want these lines to connect to the side of the first one we drew. Okay. And we just keep connecting. If you have more space, you can add more lines to your triangles. Okay, so this one is a really wide one. These lines just kind of continue on, so you can't really tell where that triangle, well, one ends and the other begins. It's not as distinct, but it's no problem because there are no mistakes. Okay, but this one I'm going to leave blank. And usually what happens is when you have a triangle that you end up with between two, then there's really no good way to draw your lines to distinguish it by itself. So I leave mine open. And there's another one that will stay open. And I'm just working my way around, making more triangles, paying attention to the direction my lines are going to go. This one will be blank also. And that one will be blank. But you can decide on your tile which ones you want to be open or blank and which ones you want to fill in. And remember, there really are no mistakes, so don't stress out about it. If you draw the lines the wrong direction in one, it's not the end of the world. blank for now, I should say. So I have connected all of my dots, but one thing I want to do now is I want to connect my Munchkin to my orbs and my talk. So I'm going to draw partial triangles. So you see the tip would be back underneath. There we go, and let's do one here. Same idea. And this is just random. I think that's enough. But one thing I want to do now is address these triangles that are open. And you can fill them in with lines like we did over here, where you can't tell one triangle really from the other. And it's okay, because really there's no mistakes. But something I like to do is I like to use a little triangle fragment in each one of these spaces. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to draw like a half circle shape on the inside of each side of these triangles that are open. And then I'm going to draw a circle and make it a black orb with a little sparkle. So there's one. Now let's do this one. This is a different fragment from the one I used in my post tile, my practice tile. But you could literally use any fragment or any little micro pattern you like inside. You could even just color them all in with solid black, and that would give it some extra contrast if you wanted to do that. So that is pretty much all there is for step 5, the patterns. And now we're moving on to step 6, which is the shading. So I'm picking up my pencil and we're going to begin with our orbs. And I always shade my orbs with a little smile-shaped line of graphite on one side in the bottom usually. It wouldn't matter where you put this. I like to keep it consistent between the orbs, but even that isn't really necessary. So now I've got my graphite down there. I'm going to get my tortillon out. I like to blend it this direction, so I turn my tile a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and just blend it out around that bottom corner of the orb. I'm turning my tortillon as I blend it out so that the graphite collects a little bit more uniformly on the tortillon. Okay, so that is our orbs. The next thing we're going to shade is around our teardrop shape, our talk. And to shade this, we are going to add a little bit of graphite next to the line between the black spots on our talk. You don't need much, so don't get crazy. And then we're going to blend these out, but we don't want to pull it away from the line too far. And we want to try to keep it off of that black spot because that'll just get lighter with the graphite instead of darker. They're awful small, so I don't know how important that is going to be. Okay, now with what I have left on my tortillon, I am just going to kind of lightly go around this aura so it's not so white. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for now on talk. Picking my pencil back up, and now we're going to our munchin. Now, munchin, there's several different ways you can shade it. The way I want to shade it today is I'm going to put a line of graphite on what I look at as the bottom. So I see the top is the point and the bottom is opposite that. So here's the first one. There's the next one. See, there's the bottom there. There's the bottom there. There. There's a lot of tile turning going on here. So hopefully no one's getting dizzy. Okay, now this is also the bottom. This is the bottom. And then I also want to put a little bit right next to the talk, that aura around the talk, but only where it meets up with lines from our munchkin. There. Oops, nope, I got these two. Okay, now I'm picking up my tortillon once again, and we are going to blend out this graphite. Looks like I forgot to put graphite on this bottom. That's okay. You can add it. You can always add more graphite. So you see I'm blending it and pulling it inward towards the triangle. But you don't want to completely cover up the white. You need that to contrast against the dark. Now this one might be all dark, because it's kind of behind, goes up behind the talk there. Got that one too, but it's okay. I have plenty left on my tortillon. Now, I haven't done anything here with the fragments. I may just add a little bit to the white in the center and leave it at that. Something's bothering me about this. Not that there are mistakes, but I'm going to get my pen out again, and I'm going to draw one more of these munchkins over here. I don't know why, but that was just making me a little crazy. And I'll put a little graphite on the bottom. Okay, now all we have left is our teardrop shape in the center. And all we're going to do with this is we are just going to shade it to give it some dimension. And we're going to start by just putting a little light line of graphite around the edge on the inside border, the edge of the inside border. Okay. And then I want to add a little bit extra in this bottom corner. And now I'm going to blend that out. And I'm just pulling it away from the edge. So basically we have shading around the edge of the inside border with a little heavier shading here in this bottom corner. Just like when we do our orbs, we make one side a little heavier, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, and also, just to make this look more interesting, and if you use your imagination, maybe it can look like some sort of a stone. I'm going to get my pen out again, and I'm going to draw some lines that kind of look like you would see cracks in a stone. So I'm going to, these usually I try to draw a little wobbly. Okay, and that is all I'm going to do for that. Just a couple of lines. It doesn't have to be crazy. And that is all there is to our tangles and our shading. So we are now moving to step 7. Step 7 is to initial and sign. We initial on the front, and I'm going to use my chop. Now a chop is just an artist mark. And mine happens to be a stylized version of my initials, B and C. So I'm going to go ahead and put, let me put it over here, I guess. I will try to tuck it up underneath my munchin. And then I'm going to put my 3 little perps. And there is my initial, my chop. Then I'm going to flip it over. And on the back, I'm going to date it, but I will do that off camera. Then I'm going to sign it. And then we have our tangles. So we began with some tipple in form of orbs. And then we did talk around our teardrop. Then we did munchin. And we did a few fragments in the blank spaces of our munchin. And that was all we did. Now we can add any notes. I'm going to add that I created this for my Mindful Monday 74. And step 8, our last step, is to just sit back one more time and appreciate what you've done, appreciate what you've drawn, appreciate that you just took some time for yourself. Sometimes that's enough. We are really rushing through life, so anytime we can take a little break and bring ourselves into this moment, I always look at that as a win. So that's all there is for today's tile. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next time, I will remind you to be you and be happy.